think politicians have eventually learned that if they have to rule a place, a country, they need to control the information. And information is something which is, you can say, a basic right of a person to know what's happening all around him. As basic as during COVID-19, whether I will get a vaccine or not. Will I die from this vaccine or not? Or will I die from this disease or not? So if people do not have a basic information, accurate information about who to vote, who to elect their leader, it creates confusion in the society. I think somewhere down the line, given the rise of social media, and that's why you see almost every politician in the world today is on Twitter, is on Facebook, has his own channel on different social media platforms, because they realize that they can use social media to a large extent for campaigns, for propaganda, for creating a narrative or changing a narrative at a lot. This is a lot of investment by political parties in terms of building their capacities of handling their own social media accounts. I think most of major political parties today around the world have a dedicated teams within their political system which will handle social media for them. So that again, I think it's like a very clear understanding within the parties before elections, after elections, how to engage media or how to engage people by passing, you can say, traditional media, newspapers and TV stations and all, which most of parties anyway are not really paying so much attention anymore, because they know people engage on social media more, so they create the lot of information. So WHO came up with this very good and accurate term, infodemics. It's like so much information, and then people eventually tend to get confused before elections, how to vote and all. And we see this in our part of study as well. We have seen how the traditional newspapers, for that matter, or TV stations have been bypassed in a lot of regions actually, just to make sure that the messaging goes directly in a one way. There's no communication, there's no gatekeeping, there's no fact checking. Anybody can post anything and can manipulate or create a narrative on situations but there are no facts to support that. Like, for example, you claim something and you spread it across and you say it 10 times a day, people start believing it. You give them a hoarding at the airport, hoarding at a railway station with a message. When they see it 1 time a day, 2 times a day, 10 times a day, they start believing it. So the whole messaging, the political messaging is actually undermining the role of journalists, particularly at a time where the media is also having other challenges, the financial challenges, being sustainable. And we are seeing globally the traditional media is struggling with the financial model. And this gives states in some states at least, in some countries, a liberty to manipulate them actually by giving them, say, extra ads, by giving them a space in terms of sponsorships, and then taking over ownership as well through corporates. And we have seen in case of India, for example, we did an extensive study about media ownership. And from a distance, it looks like India has 100,000 newspapers, more than 500 TV stations. So from a distance, it looks like you have a lot of choice. As a reader, as a viewer, you can have multiple points of views. But when you look at essentially, you study the content and all, you figure out all the 500 TV channels, for that matter, or the newspaper essentially are saying one thing. There's no choice for a viewer to understand. And why is that happening, particularly on crucial issues? Why that is happening? Because it's like one corporate in India owning 40 media stations. The concentration of media ownership with few actually creates an unprecedented challenge again. Because you feel you're free, you have freedom and everything, but somewhere up, somebody is pulling the ropes, what they should write and not write. That's why you see role of investigative journalism, which was essentially the cornerstone of journalism, is slowly dying in a lot of parts of the world, including in India for that matter. So we are not seeing watchdog reporting at a level which should have been there, where the history is there. There have been reports, there have been major investigations done by newspapers, which were debated in the parliament, when assemblies, laws were changed because of work of journalists. That work is not happening anymore, like on key issues.